When something triggers you, how do you find your way back to presence? I've needed to answer that question more than once these last 4.5 months of chemotherapy. And one of the moments that taught me how goes back quite a few years to a major capital project in the desert where I was leading safety culture transformation. And it was demanding and complex work, and I really loved it. A few months into the project, I found myself sitting in the airport on the way to site with a very impressive global head of HSC for the client. And I have to admit, I was feeling a little bit intimidated and I really wanted to make a good impression. And then unexpectedly, he asked me some very pointed questions about the performance of the project and the work I was doing. And I noticed in that moment something a bit unusual for me. I was feeling defensive. And then I more or less forgot about it until a few days later I was walking along a corridor on site and I found myself peering around a corner to see if he was coming. And I caught myself mid-peer and I thought, Isabel, what on earth are you doing? I was absolutely mortified. That behaviour of avoiding someone and checking corridors, that's not who I am and that's not who I want to be. And so what followed was a dark night of the soul, and I sat in discomfort for hours that night. And my mind ran through justifications and escape clauses. And at the same time, there's a part of me, another part, my observer self, that kept on saying, just keep sitting in the fire. And eventually, painfully, something became very clear. I realised that over the preceding months, I'd gradually stopped working as hard as I could to build relationship and enroll 3 particular key leaders. And it had felt very painful and vulnerable to build relationships with them when they didn't seem to be responding to me. So I'd unconsciously started to avoid that particular discomfort, and that was out of integrity with my commitment to play full out for every single leader on that project, because they're the ones who create the environment in which every human being working there goes home safely to their family or not. And the moment I saw my part clearly, it all shifted. The shame dissolved and I knew exactly what I needed to do. So the next morning I got straight into action and I thought, who are the people that these guys trust? And I reached out to them and asked them for their help to arrange a meeting. And of the 3 that I tried this with, it worked with 2 of them. And one of them was a senior leader of a key subcontractor who'd been not showing up to safety leadership team meetings, to workshops or to coaching sessions. And he'd created a very fearful environment on the construction site and people were really quite frightened of him and his reactions. So through someone he respected, I got one coaching session with him and he transformed. He started showing up and he shifted how he was being with people around the site. And the change and the ripple effect were rapid and extraordinary. And it would not have happened without that moment in the corridor, without sitting in the fire and finding out where I drifted out of integrity and feeling all the feelings of that and then getting back into action. So fast forward to the last 4.5 months of treatment. And I've had a couple of moments where I found myself getting really triggered by a work situation. And I immediately noticed that my nervous system, which is already dealing with the stress of chemotherapy, was having real trouble de-escalating. And my heart was racing, my breath was short, and my mind was completely taken over, turning it over and over. And so I took a breath and I sat myself down and I chose to take 100% responsibility for my experience in this moment. And I asked myself some uncomfortable questions. What are all the feelings that are coming up here? What fears do I have about myself in this situation? What story might I have made up here and how might that not be accurate? Is there anything I know to do here that I haven't done? And what do I really care about? What do I need to do to honour that? And I quickly found some answers and my nervous system calmed and my head cleared. And I was back in my body. And that practice, sitting in the fire, feeling all my feelings, taking responsibility, taking action has won me quite a few days of fun and presence and vitality that otherwise would have been lost over that time. My body's a very honest messenger, and when something's out of integrity, I can feel it straight away. And I know right now how important it is to listen. So that corridor moment taught me very clearly that the inner work of a leader and the results they create are not separate. And what felt like a very private night of personal reckoning rippled out to change the working lives of quite a lot of people on that project. And so self-leadership, it's not a nice to have. Without it, our impact as a leader can be limited in ways we just don't anticipate. I'm Isabel. I walk through fire and I find growth and joy on the other side. And I coach teams and individuals, consult with projects and organisations, and I develop leaders. Follow me on this self-leadership journey. There's quite a lot more to come. And I'm curious, what difference have you noticed between a leader who gets hijacked by a difficult moment and one who finds their way back to presence? I'd love to hear what you've seen.